Are we good to go?
Mm.
Have you got your libations for this podcast?
I've got Barney's Irish style.
Oh, well, that's great. That's fantastic. I've got Jasper Newton's Jack Daniels. Right, because I fear we're going to need them on this episode. It's going to get serious. Hey, that's a dinky bottle.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
No. Look, that's a dinky bottle.
Oh, sorry. How much Baileys have you got?
Jack Daniels.
Oh, God. Right, so.
You fight before?
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good defense?
Yeah.
Must train different in America. Your defense stinks.
You are the new student. Come closer.
You're listening to the Kung Fu Podcast presented by James Still.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
And Steve Newby.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career.
Hello! Welcome to the show, podcast 39, with me, James Still, and the old man, Noobs himself. Yes, the most toxic person on the internet is with me. Oh, hang on, are we both equally toxic?
No, I think it's you, James.
Come on. Really?
Yeah. You're the one that's always getting the stick.
That's true. I am always getting the stick. How come they're always trying to fight me? They're never offering you out. Why is that?
I don't know.
Right,
yeah,
anyway.
I'm too old for them, aren't
I? He's old man. He's not worth it. Right, guys, welcome to another episode of the show. So we had a show planned out, did we not? And
we did.
What happened was some interesting turn of events happened in our little corner of the world, but we're hopefully going to make a show out of it. Now, the reason we're going to do that is because we want to address claims that we are trolls, but we are not, and we'll explain why. But basically, this whole thing is kind of like a lesson in the study of the human condition in relationship to martial arts, right? So this is like the psychology of people and you know, wanting to be masters and not wanting to have themselves sort of held to account in any way, shape, or form. So that's what we do. Now, what happened was how do we explain this? How do we start this? This is a good one. But basically, we kind of intercepted a Facebook message. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, this Facebook message was basically saying that Steve and myself were toxic trolls and that we this and that. And I'll read it out to you. But interestingly enough, it was by the head of the Five Blunders organization, old Steve. Okay, yeah. So, we salute you. Good effort, but we will explain as to why we're not trolls, why you lot are trolls, and why we are kind of like, what's the word? Sort of, we're on a righteous crusade, I think. Come on.
All we do is talk about martial arts. And the thing is, martial arts sometimes requires you to talk about non-martial arts or discredited martial arts or martial arts that should be discredited. Because at the end of the day, it's about defending the enthusiast. It's not about defending the masters or so-called masters. They can defend themselves. But when they start calling themselves masters, I want to, it's the same as me saying, well, I do it yourself. And I think I've decided I'm going to be a plumber.
Right.
But without qualifications and without real knowledge, it's just the fact that I can actually fix a sink. No, that doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. So I can call myself a plumber all I like.
Right.
But I think any customers I get deserve the right to know what my qualifications actually are.
Right. And you know, and
that is what we're about.
Right.
Okay. I think that's it in a nutshell.
No,
really.
it's fine. Yeah. It's like a film critic, you know? You want a film critic there to tell you if the film's any good or not. Of course, it's his opinion, but you know, when you see the film, you know, you might agree or disagree. So
yeah, you've got to have both sides of the story.
You've got to have both sides of the story. Now, shall I read out? Should we just lay the framework of the boss of 5 blunders? Shall I read you a bit more of the? Do you remember ages ago we did an episode called Dimac for £1? That was one of the things, and we talked a little bit about this guy's advert.
Well, you can highlight a few of the points.
I think I will.
The reason we
will.
started to do this,
right?
The reason
yes.
It became necessary,
now,
if you like.
As I'm reading this stuff out, listeners, what I want you to think about is us commenting the way we do about certain groups, organizations, and individuals, justified. So, right, this is some of the things from his Dimac for £1 advert, which I think is just awesome. Right. Oh, and it says in the advert, "Let me tell you what you'll learn throughout Stephen's step-by-step real Dimac secrets training program." Of course, you're immediately hooked. Okay, so this is what you'll learn. You'll learn how to completely drain your opponent of any will to fight using the governor vessel of Chinese medicine. Hit this and the pain is excruciating. He won't come back, right? There's one of the reasons. Another point you'll learn is, another technique you'll learn, the no shadow kick, right? Used by an old master that instantly stops the fight in its tracks. That's another thing. And another thing, this is probably my favorite one. And I think, maybe you'll agree with me, Steve, I don't know. How you'll learn how to literally make an opponent's bowels open. This one is to be used in extreme circumstances only. So I'm guessing what, you just hit him in the bladder, like, is that it? It doesn't quite have the hit him in the bladder. I will make your bowels open, and it's this kind of. I think
rhetoric. You have to force feed him curry or something like that.
Maybe. But it's that kind of rhetoric in an advert, which also says that he's one of the only Western guys to train in the mountain, this, that, and the other. This is why we feel compelled to comment on it, right? Because it just sounds absolutely goddamn ridiculous. But
really the thing is, you also have to understand the burden of proof is not on us.
No, certainly not.
If you're making claims, the burden of proof is on you. So we're just questioning those claims.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it's the arguments people often make are quite fallacious. They can't argue, so they then bring up something. They then start arguing about something else. They then start making claims, which is why you got that abuse from that guy, the other guy, Glenn.
That's right. Yeah, podcast. The special we did. Yeah. Which was he's a member of the 5 blunders. There's another example. I was going to say that later on. Actually, if you want an example of trolling, I was trolled. So But, oh, well, you've mentioned it now, but it's true. Anyway, right. So imagine that, that's just one small thing of what he's, doing other than drinking.
That's not trolling. Is that trolling? Are we trolling because we're calling someone to... They
were trolling us.
Yeah.
We're just calling out. We're just, like you said, we're asking for the burden of proof.
We're stating facts and,
and it's like, what... it's right. Let me, if I was them, right, let me put myself into their mind. Yeah, okay, right. Obnoxious levels up, charisma into the size of my finger. Right, okay. So, okay, so I'm going to prove to you that I can open someone's bowels. Steve, all you got to do is stand there while I punch you in the bladder really hard. What does that prove?
It's bound to be some secret little spot somewhere. Come on. Bacon 35 or something like that.
Oh, yes, yeah, like Big Mac 9. Come on. Jesus. You want to prove it works, so I'll just stand there completely still while you hit me. Of course it's going to hurt me. Jesus Christ.
That's a fact. You know, a true premise leads to a true conclusion. If you're telling the truth, whatever argument it is, it's going to come to a conclusion, which is true. And if it's fallacious, then it's not going to be true. It's just you're trying to ignore it. You're trying to change the facts. You're ignoring the facts, in effect.
Wow.
And that's what's happening right now is, you know, we're putting facts forward. And this is not trolling. We are simply stating, I mean, we're stating things that are actually written by these people for the benefit of themselves in order to, you know, try and get enthusiasts to interested in whatever they do. And we're simply saying, wait a minute, let's just fact check some of the things that you're saying. And it's only fair for the enthusiast to understand, to have two sides to the story first, rather than just go, well, you know, that's going to be fantastic. That's brilliant. You know, count me in. Like they did in the 70s, you know, yeah, I want to learn how to fly. Yeah, that's great. Come down to the class.
Well, that's what we're saying.
I want to levitate.
Well, yeah, and it's adverts like this.
I thought it was, I thought it was all gone. I thought all that crap was gone.
No. This is
obviously not.
This is recent. So, would you like to hear the post? Because we're kind of going to go full circle in this. We're going to start off with the post where we were accused of being trolls and toxic. We are then, perhaps the most important part of this podcast is the bit where we basically fact check Lau Gar and its legitimacy, right? We talk about the style of Lau Gar in the UK because there are so many people, including the Five Blunder lot, who like to perpetuate, you know, half-truths.
And where did they get their Lau Gar from?
Well, you know, right.
Yeah, it's the same place.
Yeah.
The same place they are now dissing.
Yes.
And that deserves a little bit of criticism.
It does. We got to talk about it. And then we'll come back around to this first post and why it was written. Okay, it was on an ex-student of ours Facebook page, right? And like I said, we'll get to him in a bit. Right. So, old Steve, the fearless, tireless leader, Five Blunders. He says, Matt, those toxic and jealous people who stalk you on the internet are actually fans as they follow you. We really are fans. Yes, you see that all these years in the police force doing reverse psychology and profiling this is it. We actually do, you know, we're fans. Okay. They are sad individuals, he says, who have so little going on in their lives. They feel they have to put others down when they should look at themselves. And instead of spending time talking nonsense each week, they should put the same effort into their own training. Okay. So I've just read out to you this guy's advert. Okay. I'm just saying, right? Keep up the awesome work, Matt. Internet trolls are responsible for causing so many people to suffer mental health. You only need to look at the media. They are disgusting parasites who relish in trying to cause others to suffer. These two very sad and obnoxious individuals should be ashamed of themselves and are gutter trash, as far as I'm concerned. Right, so I feel quite elevated there. I've been called worse, I'll be honest.
It's nice someone pays attention to this.
It's isn't it? No,
I thought I was just talking to you.
Oh, no,
I didn't know you were recording it. I didn't know anyone else could see it.
Internet trolls are the lowest of the low.
Yeah, I agree.
Just keep on being awesome, Matt. The best way forward is your own success. The trolls will continue to make themselves look as ridiculous as they're already doing. Oh, hang on. Aren't trolls like kind of, not all trolls are anonymous, but generally internet trolls tend to be anonymous, a bit like the Five Blunder lot when they comment on things we do and then refuse to give their name.
Yeah,
no, it's weird that. Yeah. So interesting premise.
I wrote an email to you when you told me about this.
Yeah.
Shall I read out the email?
Please do. Please read out the email and give it
I was trying to find out. Well, yeah.
Give it some pep, some zest.
I'll do my best. Okay,
right.
but troll's definition, I didn't really know what a troll was.
Let me tell you. Shall I tell you what the definition according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary? Would you like to know?
Yeah,
right,
go ahead.
So the definition of a troll is to harass, criticize, or antagonize someone, especially by provocatively disparaging or mocking public statements, postings, or acts.
Yeah.
I think does that cover us?
It does. Well, I'm sure it does cover us. The only thing is, we're not actually mocking anyone. We are simply criticizing what they are saying in terms of whether it's credibly true or not.
Right.
Remember.
Well, before you start, it's worth saying, I will, when we start talking about this thread on how fake Lau Gar is, remember that definition, and we will come back to some of these people who accuse us of being trolls, and we'll see just how trolly they are.
I said it before, I get premise leads to a true conclusion. Otherwise, you're just being irrational. And I think they're just being irrational because we're just simply stating facts that they themselves have put on, or at least they've claimed these as facts, and we're simply fact checking and seeing if these facts are actually facts or not. And I think most people will come to the conclusion that the things that you've already read out, they're not factual at all.
Yeah.
And the simple fact is they're trying to make something that is totally illogical, and it's kind of back to the old 70s when everybody was, trying to kill each other with a poison dart, like from 500 yards. That was their kung fu.
Right.
In other words, I can touch you here and you will fall over and all that kind of thing. Many moons ago, I'm sure in the ancient times, there may have been some kind of decent medicinal art or capability of doing things like that. But today, A, you're not training hard enough, and B, you ain't going to make it work anyway, because everyone has medicinal, capabilities of getting seen to very quickly.
Like an aspirin.
Like an aspirin, yeah.
I'm protected against the 5-point exploding heart technique now.
Well, all we're talking about is you look at videos like a guy standing there, hands up, and then this other guy standing within range of that. Would you have your hands up if you weren't in fight? You're in a fight. Right. So the guy's going to then try and knock your hand away. Well, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, he knocks the hand away. Boom. If you're a decent, have anything about you, you stand like that. You're not going to have all your arms knocked away and then someone stick their finger in your neck.
No.
You know that and if you're going to stand there like that, then you're a dick. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
You don't let anyone anywhere near you if you think that's what he's doing. Now, of course, you're supposed to be antagonist. Maybe you're the antagonist and you're angry and all this sort of thing. Second, you see this thing go, you're going to go. And, I'm sure, if you're lucky, you might poke someone in the eye. It's quite possible, easy. But don't start looking at these, target things blocking while you're in a fight.
Would you say that in order to practice the technique, you have to allow someone to offer themselves to you?
Well, yes, you have to allow someone to offer them to you, but to prove the technique, it has to be done in real time.
Right.
There's a difference between practice and real time.
Right. Okay.
And a lot of the time, unfortunately, people do, you've always seen the technique where someone steps and punches, leaves their arm there for a while the guy's blocking him, then doing this, then doing that, walking around, grabbing his neck.
Yeah.
All this kind of thing.
Stomp the groin.
The guy is not going to throw his punch and then just stand there like that. He's going to throw his punch. If it misses, he's going to try to protect himself. He's going to try and grab you. In a real situation, if he punches has missed and that, he doesn't want you to punch him, so he's going to straight away grab you, which is why most fights will be grappling. after that event, which is why if you can fight from a distance at range like a boxer, then you're going to be trying to do that. Of course, if you watch any boxing match and the guy gets overawed or overpowered, what does he do?
Clench.
Grabs him.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. And he'll bite your ear off while you're trying to poke him in the eye.
Right. This,
Shall I read this thing to you?
Go on, read it. Read it out. Read your response.
I read, yeah. So it's about trolling. So basically I said, we are simply fact-checking their own words and claims. That's there in black and white. Are they not? They're there in black and white.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah. So what they're talking about is Lau and that. Okay. So what they're trying to do, they're questioning Lau. By definition, Yao's authenticity. That's the master of the style. So why do they complain when we question their claims and the determination to use the name? Why do they go so far to defend their claims to it in court? They claim that they should be using the name, or they should be allowed to use a name, even if they're taken to court.
Yeah,
they still claim it. Why would they go that far and then say the style is made up?
Is made up and fake, and Master Yao's a fraud, and all the rest of it. Right. So
So I had to say, trolls don't invite their subjects to make their own case in public. Honest people do not avoid the facts; they argue them.
Right.
Okay. We've never publicly disrespected our teachers. I think someone else has.
Yep.
Okay. We've never publicly disrespected our teachers. Okay. After claiming allegiance to the point of ceremony, by the way. Right. We've not lied or robbed or cheated or bullshitted our way into the minds of naive enthusiasts or betrayed the very people who made us.
Yep.
Okay.
I tell you what else we haven't done, old man, is we've never offered anybody out to fight them either. Yeah. We've not gone down that road,
We've never claimed to be anything. We are clearly and evidently not. Okay. We are not self-proclaimed masters or born out of untalented and arguably questionable styles. If this is trolling, then every critique or reporter is a troll. If you sprout bullshit, then expect it to linger.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
No, we've never offered anyone out. We've never bowed to someone and offered total respect and loyalty, and then gone off and done it to someone else. And shame on the masters that allow you to do that when they know you've already done it.
And these people will crop up throughout the course of our podcast today when we start talking about this fake Lau Gar thread.
When you blatantly bullshit, when you blatantly come out with crap and keep a thread going that is a lie, because the only thing that you have about you is the years you spent with Lau Gar.
Yes,
that's all you've got with you. Everything else doesn't matter, because the knowledge of the foundation of a style is more important than anything else. If you have no foundation, then you have no style. So when you start doing this style and then the next style and then the next style, the only way you can relate to it
is from what
is in your foundations.
Yes.
And if your foundations are in Lau, then you can only apply it to Lau. And if the style is useless and cannot be applied to Lau, like a lot of these, big, heavy, powerful styles can't be, then you've wasted your bloody time, haven't you?
Well,
because you're jumping from one style to the next style to the next style.
You've
no foundation for it.
You've actually you've taken steps back in many respects.
Yes, because you cannot digest that amount of stuff.
No,
and you can't digest it without a foundation base, without an idea.
Right.
You have to have an initial idea.
Right.
And that initial idea comes from your basic training in Lau. If you did any learning.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to say, I trained this, I trained it for 20 years, I've trained for 40 years, I've trained for 1,000,000 years. And then you look at them on the their videos and you go, really?
Yeah.
Nothing shows.
Absolutely.
And you watch them teach and you go, really? Nothing shows.
Mm-hmm.
You just come out with this crap that you hope other people will buy. And I think
you know,
people will see that you know, at least when we teach it logically, and what I teach isn't necessarily going to be useful to you.
No.
And vice versa. You know, whatever you learn is not necessarily going to be useful to me.
Yeah, but
it's about having that basic principle, the science and the tactics and the strategy.
You teach the recipe, you know.
Yes,
that's it. And now I've got the recipe. I don't have the recipe, but I appreciate the recipe. I can understand. I can visualize it.
And you got some good dishes.
Right, there you go. So, you know, just a few. Don't have many.
Yeah.
But well, you know, it's there. It's a foundation.
Well, I got to tell you, some of those people's, their eggs are off.
There you go. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no. Well said. Well said. Anyway.
I think it's important for us to mention that, you know, for whatever reason we're criticizing the critics, or we're answering the critics, is for our own personal, you know, interests. Not it is nothing to do, or it's not on behalf of any association or any individuals.
No.
We're doing it because, you know, when you see something wrong, you have to comment. I think you have to come out and you have to say what's right, what's wrong. And my opinion is, you know, only my opinion, and your opinion is yours. But the listeners will make their own, you know, evaluation of what we're saying. And always a listener who feels, you know, whatever camp they're in, can always contact us. And there's absolutely no reason for them to be, you know, have any animosity. If they do, if they choose to, then that's their issue. But if they want to just say, okay, Steve or James, so what happened here and what happened there, and what's this and what's the reason for that then, and how did that happen, and why is it like this then? And then we'll answer them and we'll give them a good reason. If we can't give you a good reason, then we'll apologize and say you must be right.
Yeah.
And that's it. So
I think listening to us, if you've kept up with us this far, you kind of know that we do wear our hearts on our sleeve. And we personally, and this is where we get into trouble, we don't believe that really anything is you know, not to be is off topic. You know, we don't talk about anything and everything, warts and all. You know, we're interested in the truth and being honest to yourself, you know, first and foremost, you know, and then, you know, of course, everything martial art related in that, you know. But we're going to call out this hypocrisy. And today, like I said, we are fact-checking these people, because this thread was just the start of an interesting week.
Yeah, I think my view is as a, you know, a martial artist, as an enthusiast of martial arts for 47 years, I believe that I have a duty, if you like, to support that martial art.
Right.
So for 42 years of those 47 years, I was part of the British Kung Fu Association, and to any degree I am, although I'm in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, the point is that I support the style that I've trained for that long. And if someone is going to critique it, I got absolutely no problem with it. But if someone's going to claim to teach it, I want to know, you know, where you learned it, how you learned it, and if you learned it.
Right.
And if I see that you are conning people, trying to use the name, trying to imply that it's your style, then I'll call you out and I'll ask you genuinely, what right do you have to claim that you are teaching something that would otherwise be taught by the genuine, you know, practitioners?
Yeah.
And those students that go with people like that, obviously, they're the ones losing out. So everything that I say is for the benefit of opening the eyes of enthusiasts of Lau.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing is just let them know where it actually is.
Yeah, because, and it's a sad reality, is no one, and this isn't a reflection on people in the organization, in the British Kung Fu organization, but we're the only people talking about it, right? Now, right or wrong, I got a strong opinion. As
have I.
Yeah. So right or wrong, but no one else is doing it. Now, if you're going to criticize the style, that's fine. And I respect that. And we've always said, bring a great argument to the table and we'll counter it. We'll talk about it. We'll try and play devil's advocate as well. But if, if you are going to, spread, disinformation, whatnot, you're going to get called out. You really are. Now, I'm not following you, Steve. Like I'm 37 now, and I've got a mind of my own. I'm not doing this because you're my teacher. I'm not doing this out of loyalty to you. I'm doing it because I believe it's the right thing to do. So we'll talk about it warts and all. Now, I have a great, enormous amount of respect for Master Yao, even though he doesn't know me from Adam, and the style of Lau Gar. But we are in no way representing it. We are representing ourselves, but we just want to talk. We want to add a bit of, truth to this. You can argue if
we
it's
want to add a
voice.
We want to add a voice that is,
because it's not out there.
Well, we are devil's advocate, aren't we? We are adding a voice that is pro-Lau as opposed to anti-Lau. So if there's going to be a devil, there's got to be a god. If there's going to be a god, there's got to be a devil. So
absolutely.
We've got to answer those critics. I think
we're going back to the old thing, old man, of lineage authenticity, right?
Oh, that's interesting
yes.
subject.
Now, funny enough, the other day I get sent another thread, right, on a Facebook page called Martial Art Cheats, and it's like Muck Dojo, I guess, but sort of a derivative. And I've never seen this before. And this thread is that we're late to the game. We're late to the game. It's about 5 years old. But funny enough, someone commented it on the other day. Friend of mine saw it on their feed. They sent it to me. And, it sort of sparked some more, contributions to it. And the thread was quite interesting. The thread was, and this was the title, is Jeremy Yao's Lau Gar genuine or made up? Jeremy Yao of the BKFA claims to be teaching Lau Gar. The history on the BKFA website states that he learnt this style in China and brought it to the West. On the other hand, this style seemingly cannot be traced back to China. And experts say that it bears no resemblance to the Lau Gar, which is incorporated into Hung Gar. I wonder what style these experts. I wonder what style these experts are studying. I mean, if we had to get okay. An interview with Bay Logan states that Jeremy Yao invented the style himself, and they quote him, and the quote was, "I started off with a system called Lau Gar, a kind of chop suey style invented by a man called Jeremy Yao." Now, in an interview with Bay Logan, if you don't know who Bay Logan is, he gets where Epsom salts doesn't get. He's like a bit of history on Bay Logan. He trained briefly in the UK, Birmingham area. He was
Did he?
Oh, I don't know. I'm
not sure if he ever trained.
Well, he's always been around the martial arts when he was in Birmingham in the UK. Then he moved to Hong Kong to sort of hobnob with the film and movie stars, whatnot. And he's probably most sort of known for doing all the theatrical commentaries on all the Hong Kong Golden Harvest movies, which were released in the UK by Hong Kong legends. So like loads of films he's done the commentary on.
Yeah, he was editor of Combat Magazine.
Was he editor of Combat Magazine? He was
editing it. He was doing the columns for Combat Magazine.
Yeah,
and eventually got rid of, and he just went off to China. He used to do a lot of critics. He did the Geeko Spectacular stuff.
That was a great show. That Geeko Actions Martial Arts Spectacular.
He didn't do anything in it. No. He was just there reporting on it and so on and so forth. And then forgive me if my memory doesn't serve me well, but obviously Paul Clifton then took over. He was the photographer originally, and then he became editor, and he did some articles. I wrote 11 articles, a few pages each in Combat Magazine. I also had an article written about me and Dave Baptist when we were running Scotland in the various different areas.
Right.
He was sort of based in Glasgow and I was based in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
We ran classes around those areas.
Yeah.
And we did promotion together. Forgive me. Yeah, so basically, yeah, he did go to Hong Kong and, kind of critique movies and talk about that. But yeah, he did, like you said, he got everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And he did this. He did an interview with Master Yao, and it was in Combat Magazine, and so the interview was quite friendly, but I think there was a bit of conjecture because the syllabus in Lau Gar has changed, albeit it was a left-hand side was added.
That's
right?
it.
That's the main change. But in all fairness, right? In all fairness to the people who say Lau Gar is made up, it's worth saying that at the time of the British Kung Fu Association's inception, around the time of the Bruce Lee boom, Master Yao was not approached to teach at this time. It was the British Kung Fu Association did not start with Master Yao. It started
with Mike Haig.
With Mike Haig, a guy called Mike Haig. And what did Mike Haig do to sort of, what did he check? Because he was a karate guy, promoting karate.
Well, he was promoting karate. Originally, his job was selling weight training equipment, and he was into gyms.
Right.
And he saw this karate thing, and he thought that's a thing. So he invited a few people over. Black belts that were first degrees in Japan. By the time they got off the plane here, slept in his house. They were third and fourth dans. So
you really?
Yeah. So that's how it was in the 70s. I'm
gonna need the white man's burden drink here, Lloyd. Bear with.
Okay.
I need a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to fill people in on the history and which is why the conjecture can, or rumor and all that kind of thing can start to develop. Where you have to understand it. This was before Master Yao was even there. And it was taught by a guy called Pat Carroll. Right. And Pat Carroll was teaching, karate, as in block, punch. And then, wait a minute, Bruce Lee's died. Let's start a Kung Fu thing. British Kung Fu Association, we're going to call it. Bruce Lee's Kung Fu was the promotional advert in Temple Street down in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And this changed to this.
So let me get this straight.
And it became Kung Fu just like that.
So when the karate are blocking with closed fists, all they did was open the hand and do a finger strike.
Yeah.
That's genius.
That was like a number one hand
I get you. But it's the idea,
Yeah, that's right. So basically, they were running out of things to teach, and they were looking, and they had lots and lots of students. Everyone who didn't want to do Kung Fu when Bruce Lee died, everybody was jumping from karate to Kung Fu.
Right.
Okay, and Mike was looking for someone who would. He interviewed about 26 people, and he was looking for someone who could actually teach Kung Fu.
Right.
It was suggested to him by Bernard Chung, who was training with Master Yao at the time.
What was Master Yao doing before he was?
He was working in a restaurant. He came for work. He came to Britain from work. In Hong Kong, there was no work.
Right.
Very well, highly popular. In the 60s, it was not a great place.
Yeah.
They didn't have all the kind of technology they have now. They didn't have the finance they had now, and he came here looking for work.
Yeah, right.
And he found work, and that was fine. It's the same as everybody's prerogative to get work. But he was a martial artist. And
you know,
that will come to pass as we speak, because there are some very, very stupid people out there who take no, you know, they don't give credit where it's due. They don't give credit where it's obvious. And I think we've got to talk about that too.
Okay,
so
no problem. Well, we're in the broad strokes at the moment. So
well, generally that's the start. That's the start. And of course, Master Yao was invited then to become chairman of the British Kung Fu Association. Right. So anyone who suggested the association was made up, absolutely. Right. Same with any other association.
Yeah. So it was made up because initially, so they had the funky hand blocks, you know, poking the eye, etc. Yeah. What else did they do? I mean, did they have any sort of different forms back then? You know,
well, when it first started, Master Yao didn't want to use the name. He didn't want anybody to know.
He didn't want to call it Lau Gar. He did not want to call it Lau Gar.
No, it was very traditional. That's why it was called Bruce Lee's Kung Fu.
Right.
He just didn't want to. It's his family style. He didn't want to. You know, promote it. No one thought it would last 5 minutes. Right. It's a fad, isn't it? Bruce Lee died, for God's sake. Yeah. It's a simple fad. You know, they'd think everybody goes back. It's like snooker. Everyone crazy about snooker. So Mike Hague started snooker halls.
Did Master Yao start snooker halls?
I believe he did have some interest in it. Yeah. But the point is, you know, at the end of the day, he was asked to do this, and so there were certain forms that were in there already. There were some white eyebrow forms, and there was other forms, and so on. Right. So yeah.
So we can
Xiao So Far. There was one Xiao So Far. There was another one. Yeah. A Pak Mei form.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Chup Sao. You know, that kind of thing. So yeah, there was a lot of different, you know, things going on in there. So to that end, it was, you know, developed but until it actually became Master Yao's style.
Right.
When Master Yao started providing his own.
Why do you think Master Yao decided to give in and call it Lau Gar? I mean, you know,
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Why choose Lau Gar? No one's ever heard of Lau Gar.
So
like you'd heard of Hungar.
No, you didn't. No one had heard of Hungar
really?
until Bruce Lee died.
Well,
until Bruce Lee died. Yeah, there was no one had heard of any bloody Kung Fu here. Why do you think they got away with calling it Bruce Lee's Kung Fu, for God's sake? There was no one else to compete with.
When you talk about the popular styles, if you like, or the most common styles of Kung Fu, you're going to name Wing Chun. You're probably going to name Hungar, right?
Yeah, in China.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
And only when you started getting the West interested, just the same as they got interested in Taekwondo, and Taekwondo was suddenly imported or exported from Korea. Yeah. I mean, just imagine what it was like in the 70s. Oh, and then people were calling up and saying, I want to learn to levitate. I want to learn to levitate. You know, and great, come down. Yeah. That's what it was like in those 70s. And people were they started running Kung Fu classes in their bloody lofts and stuff. Yeah. It was ridiculous. There were people pretending that there were white people pretending they'd been brought up in the temple of Shaolin when the Shaolin temple's been dead for like 300 years. And they were just, I was brought up by monks.
Right.
There were people like that in the 70s. Yeah. You just do not believe how crazy and stupid people were at that time. But no one knew any different.
No.
And when it did start to become, you know, Master Yao said, well, if I'm going to do it, then I'm going to do it my way. And then he started teaching his own style, which is his hereditary style,
right?
That he learned from his grandfather. Yeah. So, but let's just put it this way: if he made up the name Lau Gar,
right?
And no one had heard about it, why didn't he call it Yao Gar?
Whoa, come on! No, you're right.
If he made it up, why didn't he do that? The fact
I would argue
because it's a legitimate style,
right? Okay, but I could argue as well. I could say, well, you know, no one had ever heard of Lau Gar, so he could have just taken the name and used it, and no one would have been the wiser. Mm-hmm. Because I don't have to prove anything.
He didn't know. But that was it. That's, but the only time, when did Wing Chun start to appear? After Lau Gar. When did Hung Gar start to appear? After Lau Gar. It was always, that's how it developed. And, the British Kung Fu Association became the strongest and largest association.
You're talking about in the UK, right? Let's be specific. Like, you're talking about, when did Hung Gar appear, sort of.
But Master Yao's in the UK.
Yeah.
He hasn't gone abroad and professed to start teaching different organizations and start getting people going there for a weekend course and teaching them like certain set, and then they suddenly become the masters there in that country, like bloody what's that, Jeet Kune Do. Do a weekend course with bloody one of done in a Santo or the others, which I've don't come to me right now. Once you've done that course, now you can go off and you can do, you can be the head of that style in that country. And that's how it got so popular. And I had a guy in Scotland who, he left me. He was only doing the kickboxing, and the next thing I know, he went on a course for a weekend with Krav Maga. And he was the highest ranking Krav Maga guy in Scotland. And that was his his promotion.
You've talked about that like before. Absolutely.
This is all common knowledge. Okay.
Right.
This is all common knowledge. So, people go, you can't be talking about the style or whatever. Come on. There are thousands and thousands of people who have done that style, have heard the same stories, who are no longer part of the association, but at least they know the truth. At least they understand the logic. And they're not in part of this stupidity that people are professing to do.
So, we're talking about sort of, I think most people will say it's a made-up style because, there's an interview with Display Logan where Master Yao sort of says, I've changed. We used to have like the back mace sets and a couple of stuff, and then I've got rid of them. Now, just explain a bit about the process of the transitioning process between all the old, sort of fake, I don't call it fake kung fu. It was just a money making thing.
It is what it is. But, with Pat Carroll and that.
So you got the transition period between that, the old crappy, blah, 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 karate inspired syllabus, and then what Master Yao phased in as the syllabus as we know it in the BKFA. But that's not to say it didn't change later on down the line, albeit very slightly when he added left hand. So talk about that period. Why did he suddenly phase in this?
Because he didn't want it to look, how it did. It wasn't kung fu. It just wasn't enough, realistic. It wasn't realistic enough. It wasn't any use, and it had no place in the real world. It was the 70s, big purge, or rather not purge, but promotion of Bruce Lee's death, basically.
Right.
That's what that was about. And of course, people were turning up to train. Women were turning up to train in skirts, and so Master Yao started introducing uniforms. There was no uniforms or anything at the time, so it was just simply like that, made up. And you want to talk about the development of it. Obviously, it became quite popular in terms of fighting ability as well, and there were people that were taken from karate, famous people, Steve Babs and so on, who started to learn Lau Gar. They started to learn the concept of Lao or Kung Fu.
Right. So I'm going to ask you about that because that's another sort of gripe. People say, "Oh, well, the only reason Lau Gar was put on the map is because of these early fighters who were so good and etc." But just going back to this first generation, if you like, of the people who sort of were quite well established, good fighters, like Steve Babs, etc. And they were good fighters. They had that brilliant, attitude towards it. They just get in there, do the job, etc. Now, why would they have been attracted to, number one, to Kung Fu, and number two, to sort of follow Master Yao? in that way?
Because
Is it because he's Chinese? Is it because he's Chinese?
Well, there is that. If you talk about the prejudice of the 70s, you recognize that if the instructor was white, they wouldn't have followed him. If he was black, white people wouldn't have followed him, and so on. So you would have that kind of prejudice in the 70s.
Yeah.
But because it was Chinese, it was totally different. Both black people and white people would, in effect, integrate into classes without an issue.
Right.
And these people were, pretty good fighters in the karate, but they were looking for ways of how to beat other karate.
Right.
And when you come out with the concept of speed, which is totally alien to karate, then you start to see at the time. Yes. Then you start looking at back fists and that sort of thing. And of course, when they started winning with these different techniques and was coached by Master Yao in working in development of Lau Gar,
right,
into like a fighting competitive aspect,
right,
which to his credit, Mike Haig had dealings in and tried, because obviously he was the promoter.
Right. Okay.
So then you have these Lau Gar people going to the only competitions that were available at the time, which were karate competitions,
right,
and just walking out with everything, just walking out with all the trophies. They were winning everything, and the reason they were winning everything is because it was a totally alien situation. I want to draw your attention to exactly the same thing that happened when Bruce Lee did his
Long Beach
demonstration. Who was watching? Big full contact karate guys.
Right.
What did they do? Started training with Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Same reason. Not because Bruce Lee was like some amazing fighter, because he only ever demonstrated fighting once, but because he had a concept, the concept being Kung Fu, the fast speed.
Yeah.
And so back fists and very quick movements and constant motion was the thing that completely changed the karate world. It completely turned the karate world on its head.
A lot of karate fighting back then was very much like your what they call the kumite, reverse punches.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. It changed all that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And at the time in the 60s, you look at the legends in America like Joe Louis and Chuck Norris, etc. Although they evolved to be really amazing full contact fighters, brilliant, but they all started from this sort of static point fighting, and it was point fighting back then. The idea was, initially when it was a conception, there was no pads. The idea was that you're trying to land that one knockout blow with the power, putting down the power, etc. That's since evolved into a very gamey sport today, but nevertheless the concepts, the strategies and ideas, they're still there, albeit it has evolved. It's like Formula One. The
strategies are there, but they've evolved rules, and so they've created it to make a much, rather than it's like pugilism we talked about previously. It's like pugilism and boxing. Basically, you stick pads on people, fight lasts longer, you get more of an audience, you make more money.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you get more participants, because remember, doing semi-contact means that you can have kids fighting, you can have ladies fighting, you can have all sorts fighting. Yeah. In the general scheme of things.
You can have weight. It's not weight categories as well.
Yeah, without disrespect to women and kids, there are kids doing full contact. There are women doing full contact. I understand that. I'm not sort of knocking that. I'm just saying that in those days when they created semi-contact, it meant more people, not just the people who were dedicated to full contact, but people who wanted to participate in a sport, but wanted to go work the next day.
Right, exactly.
Without black eyes or a broken jaw.
Of course.
Simple as that. So it was a semi-contact evolution. And that was created by the British Kung Fu Association.
In this country.
In the UK.
In the UK. It was
it was then spread, and if you think about it, where they were winning around the world.
Hang on a second, let me just go back. You said it was created by the BKFA in this country, points fighting. Was it though? Weren't karate doing it before?
Yeah. But I'm talking about the semi-contact events and the style that we do now was created by the BKFA.
So you're talking about the evolution of what semi-contact became, sort of like the fluidity of it instead of the rigidness.
Right. Yes, because you've always had karate people doing points fighting or semi-contact, if you want to call it that, and light continuous as well has been developed. But, people will have a lot of different opinions of it. There will be a lot of people in different martial arts and different interests and different factions that will all come up with some kind of evolution program from it.
So what makes what you're saying the truth or legitimate? How do you know this?
I know it the same as everybody knows it, by results.
Right.
All you have to look at is results. When you see the results and the success and the capability, and then you see them then later on in the 80s fighting the Taekwondo and the karate every 2 years in the championship, what that was called, Clash of the Titans.
Right.
And the fact that Lau Gar won for 12 years running, and what was the point? In the end, they just stopped doing it because they just kept winning all the time. And when you see them going to all these other competitions and just winning, and this was before all other kung fu started ever trying to perform competitive fighting in their styles.
Right.
Wing Chun has never been an advocate of competitive fighting, except with some individuals who tried to promote it, and then you end up sticking loads of gear on and trying to make it full contact. When in reality, that's not going to give you any skill. That's going to be man-to-man skill. That's going to be individual against individual. It's not going to create a technical skill for the style.
Yeah, yeah.
Simple as that. So, and that's why it was never successful. And that's why Taekwondo, they embraced what was happening with Lau Gar because they kept losing. They've won because they've started to win, because they stopped just using their legs and started using back fists and hands. They've started becoming successful because of that. And there are some good fighters there. And if you look at some of the karate people, there's some good fighters there, simply because of the fact that they've started to embrace a complete different method of fighting. That came from the origination of the BKFA.
Right. And more specifically, Master Yao's coaching. Can we say that? Can we say that?
Yes, we can say that.
Right. Okay.
And we have video footage of him coaching the team. He was the coach of the A team. He was the coach of the national squad before other people started doing it, like Neville Ray, etc., etc.
Yeah.
He used to do it. He did it, and then Sean Vieira was coaching it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dave Baptist was assisting.
Neville Ray, and
yeah. These big names, these good fighters, they were all, they came up through those ranks.
Right.
And but it was Master Yao that was developing that. Now, for anybody then to say, "Oh, it's all made up," look at the results and try to tell me where your results are, how your history.
We'll talk about this. But now you're plucking out the results, and you cannot dispute that, right? You can't dispute that. Now, when a lot of people say, "Oh, it's made up," they're going to maybe suggest that, oh, well, the fighting was because of the guys who were fighting and represent. That's not the traditional martial art, though, because that's just kickboxing. So it's not that. So, but when we talk about the style, it's made up because, let's face it, it's a mismatch and you can't trace the lineage, right? So generally speaking, that's what they're going to allude to when they talk about Lau Gar being made up. We're talking about the traditional elements, the forms, the lineage, etc. All the things that you kind of envisage when you I just want to belong to the style or whatnot. So that's where I think they're going with that argument. Let's just briefly. Let's just press on a bit with this.
I was going to say, let's listen to some of the thread and let's start answering these people.
Yeah, absolutely. So the author of this thread, is it fake? He starts off this as well. He says, look, as far as I'm concerned, if you call it Lau Gar, then it should be the Lau Gar, not a made-up system. It should be what it says, simply, really. Someone else comments. Jimmy, he says, and this was a long...
I'd agree with that.
Someone else says, dude, all martial arts are made up.
And I'd agree with that.
He's got a point.
Yeah,
I'd
agree with that too.
Yeah, elaborate on that, old man. All martial arts are made up.
Yeah, it depends on who makes them up.
Right.
Remember the guy that decided to do his own style in Scotland and decided to do the first set in the box splits?
Right, okay.
His style is made up,
Yeah.
except that he's alluding to a traditional style that he learned from before.
Yeah.
So, as most people will do, except that they don't know the difference between their arse and their elbow when it comes to learning the actual techniques and verifying what these techniques are actually useful for,
right?
Or how you can utilize the style in general. And many of them just don't know that, so they perform forms, and that's as far as they can go.
Sure.
But you don't forget also, James, that when people do leave and they start building their own style, you've got to look at, there's absolutely thousands of them who have done this.
Yeah.
The majority of them start off as a kung fu based style and end up just simply teaching kickboxing.
Kung fu goes out the window. We'll hit some pads and we'll spar, because that's it.
Because they can't remember or can't practice the traditional aspect, because they didn't know enough about it in the first place.
Yes.
Shall I give you a couple of examples?
Go ahead. Make my day.
Hop Kune. Ever heard of Hop Kune?
Hop Kune Do? It rings a bell.
Yeah. Hopkins.
Yep.
Yeah. Richard Hopkins, when he left, started his own thing. Hop Kindo.
Right. What about
and bless him, he's taking the pee. That's what he was doing. He's just taking the piss.
You gotta love it though,
because he was so funny. He's a really nice guy, actually. But he did it his way, and okay, fine, do it your own way, but don't bloody say it's Lau, because it ain't Lau. But he learned Lau until he was a second degree,
right? And
then if he's got a basis for it, fine. But then he just started his own thing, and bless him. That's it.
You know, it ain't a question of I've got to second degree. I know it. It goes on a bit longer. Let's be honest.
He didn't do that. Yeah, he didn't do that. No.
Right. So going on down the thread.
I'll give you another one.
Oh, go on then. Give us another one.
Can't dwell on that one, can you?
Oh, what about Jeet Kune Do? Jeet Kune Do. There you go.
Jeet Kune Do is a typical example, isn't it? And we all know the story of, Bruce Lee getting injured in a fight.
Yeah.
And then having to sort of sit on his bed with a bad back.
Wasn't that in the movie? Wasn't that just a movie thing?
No, he got injured. He got injured. Yeah, he got injured apparently, according to all accounts.
But he released the book. No, because the book was released after he died. Linda put it together. His wife. He didn't release it while he was alive.
No, he didn't release the book.
Right, okay, yeah.
No, the facts are that he did get injured, and he obviously took the time to work out. I mean, because he was very much into writing, and obviously had the biggest martial art book library in the world.
Yeah.
But he was very much into development, and he loved it. So, but that was his character. That's the way he was, and he trained bloody hard, which is why he got to be so famous. But one of the reasons he got to be so famous is because he was the first genuinely good martial artist who actually did it in Western films, not just in the Hong Kong movies he was making.
Yeah.
But his approach was totally different. Yeah. It was totally different because he was, brought up in America as well. So he had that different attitude as well to it. He didn't have the secret kind of, this is a secret kung fu, so I'm going to have to kill you if I teach it you kind of thing. So, or do it on you. So he didn't have that kind of mentality. But and then you have people like John Gwilt in Scotland, who called his the Scottish Self-Defense Organisation. As soon as he left, started calling it Lau Gar. It was he did do Lau Gar, but we tried to utilize that name and
well, there's a lot of people trying to utilize the name of Lau Gar, but we may or may not cover it. Now, right. Hey, Jimmy, he's written another comment on this thread, which says, "Here's an interesting little coincidence," and this is nothing to do. This is just a thing.
I got another one, James.
All right, go on then.
I'm sorry.
Go on. It's fun.
If we have to edit this, we can edit it. But I'll tell you, I got it. Yeah.
Go on.
Peter War.
War Gar. Come on.
War Gar.
Yeah.
Another made-up name.
Wow.
So his name was Peter War. Allegedly, his wife was Chinese. Allegedly, she taught him Lau Gar.
Right.
But his name was War. So I don't know how that would work. But anyway, you know, at the end of the day, and I trained at his class.
Right.
Because I moved to Milton Keynes and he was in Milton Keynes. And so I trained at his class because I didn't know Lau Gar was a national style. I didn't know it existed outside of Birmingham at the time. Yeah. No one ever told me.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I discovered Milton Keynes Club, Alex Barrowman, and I started training with Alex Barrowman and so on. I was in his like A team and all that kind of thing. And we went through that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was it was quite amazing.
There is so many though. There's so many. Like
there are millions.
But it's not just. It's not. I know it's not just kung fu people who do this. No. Come on, Craig.
No.
Look at every single sort of self-defense organization, Casey fighting method, this, that, the other. You know, they're all making up. Or it's some guy who suddenly goes, "I've got it. I know the secret to martial arts. I'm going to show the world."
He injured himself and he watched his cat fighting.
Right, yes, that's it. Yeah. From the old Kung Fu American magazines. I've learned cat style because I saw my cat was trying to teach me.
I think you have to look. Yeah, I think you have to look at, you know, the complexity of technology today and YouTube. And if you want to start up a martial art, you might never have been to a class, but all you've got to do is watch YouTube for a bit and throw yourself about. And then you can call yourself a master, and then you can show people certain techniques and go, "Oh, we do this in our style, we do this in our style." But if you look into his video library, you'll find this here, that there, all categorized. Oh, this is my self-defense collection. This is my fighting collection. And then when you ask them if they're any use, or you confront them, or you're prepared to sort of, I don't know, watch them do anything, you know, or see them survive for that matter, it just ain't going to happen.
Yeah,
Kenny Chan.
Kenny, yeah, right.
Esther Ranson show.
Yeah, you said,
27 clubs in Telford alone.
Shaolin Do, harking back to that next week. Do you know what I mean? So it's this ain't new. Right, anyway, moving on. Jimmy, he says, here's an interesting coincidence. Lau Gar Kung Fu, the Vietnamese language has a number of similarities and many words borrowed from Mandarin, much like English and Latin. In Vietnamese, Lau Gar Kung, pronounced as Lau Gar Kung, equals crazy old man. You've cracked it there, Jimmy. Master Yao's the crazy old man. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I think he did that tongue-in-cheek because, let's face it, it doesn't actually pronounce Lau Gar Kung, does it?
No.
It's nothing like it.
No.
And it's a separate language, so it's going to mean something different anyway. Oh, my God.
I did.
Jesus.
Last night, I haven't got me notes, but I was going through, like on Google Translator, Lau Gar Kung, and, you know, like there's a Welsh version for it, which means like street, you know, like I was you know, crazy stuff, you know, and it's like you can find anything, you know, it's
absolutely,
yeah. Anyway, now this
but people will believe that. People will believe that.
True. Now this is where we kind of come back to my mate Dave. Dave. He chips in. Now, bear in mind, we are a little late to the game. This was 5 years ago, but oh well.
Yeah.
It's worth talking about, eh? He says, it is definitely a mishmash of different styles, as is quite clear. If you look at all the forms, all very different from one another, with no common thread or principles linking them. Several of them are very easy to tell the original style they came from. Zhong Sao, our second set. Zhong Sao is obviously Wing Chun. There is also forms from Bak Mei, Southern Mantis, Hung Gar in the mix, with a slight Hakka flavour in places. This is a bloody recipe. Oh, half a teaspoon of Hakka, a sprinkling of Hung Gar, you know. Jesus Christ.
And he goes understand on, that Hakka is a people.
Yeah, they're jippos, right? Do you like dags? Do you like dags? Right. Okay.
I think that was prejudice.
Oh, it's not prejudice. I love him. I love him. He goes on. Jeremy was one of several original instructors in the early BKFA. Originally knowing only a couple of forms from his village style when he went back and forth to Hong Kong from time to time.
What was the village style called?
He doesn't say.
I'll tell you.
Go on.
It's called Lau Gar.
Right. He says, okay, originally knowing a couple of forms from his family village style, he went back and forth to Hong Kong over time and picked up some other forms. Obviously, he says, he's specific, old Dave. Obviously, these were not fully studied and all the principles and applications understood, just the basic movements. Now, he's got an awful rank on Master Yao there, because he obviously knows real Kung Fu, but Master Yao doesn't. I'd hate to think that he bowed in front of Master Yao's ancestors and then wrote, "Oh, he did." Right? Okay, never mind. Okay. This explains why so much in-depth knowledge does not exist, and instead there are just more and more forms added. As a simple example, there is so much to Zhong Sao, the second Sao, that is simply not understood or taught, as compared to Wing Chun Sunim Tao, from which it comes. He's quite clear on it. He's quite adamant on this. After studying the style for many years and learning all the forms, the lack of in-depth understanding I was expecting next soon became apparent, especially compared to other people I was training with. I guess the reason the question keeps cropping up from time to time is because it is true and won't go away. So he really has learned all the forms, which is kind of interesting, because we suggest on a theoretical level that the first set, which comprises of 13 moves, has an infinite number of possibilities. So this guy must be damn good.
Yeah, he must be.
Now, how interesting.
And I'm surprised he didn't say that the first set isn't like Silim Tao.
Well, isn't that like Lau Gar or I don't know.
No, Silim Tao. The Wing Chun, I mean, I think just as a brief comment.
Doesn't it look a bit like Fu Hok Sun Ying or one of the early sets?
No, Fu Hok Sun Ying is a long set. It's a tiger and crane combined.
Right.
Let me just explain about these first two sets. Then they are separated from one another, and they've been added to simply because of being left-handed and very short in comparison to other styles that have got much longer forms.
Right.
So if you train a very short form, you can practice it over and over again, and you become better at it simply because you only have to do it for a very brief moment. Yeah. Whereas these longer forms in other styles that they favor larger forms, like Fu Hok Sun Ying, for Hok Wan Ying. They are fairly elaborate, okay, much the same as like the five animal form. They're kind of that kind of length. But if you think about them, the earlier forms, they're basically very much like Wing Chun. They are very much like Wing Chun. You wonder why? Because they both came from the same place. They both came from the same place. Right. So if Master Yao's made his up, then also Wing Chun has been made up.
Oh, wow.
Because they're very similar. Unless you want to say that Wing Chun came before Lau Gar, which, to all intents and purposes, historically, it didn't. So think about it. What they're saying is just doesn't really make sense. And I know this Dave, and he was a sweet guy. I watched him grow up from the age of 10, 11 or whatever, or maybe even earlier. On the summer course every year, I'd see him. I'd walk with his dad. I'd talk with his dad, and his dad would always keep on asking me about business and about questions about the way I teach and what I do, and that. And obviously, he's very ambitious, Dave. He left with people. Unfortunately, he didn't really have a choice. And so, but I think personally, if he had the choice, he would have stayed. But unfortunately for him, he lives in an area where maybe there isn't so much knowledge provided because they're so far away from the center. I mean, the problem with all martial arts is they're going to differ logistically, simply because if you don't know or can't reach an area to train, then you're going to have to take what you get. And that is the unfortunate thing. But of course, it's down to you or your instructor or your, the main instructor there to get, to the main source of information and to learn it. So I used to travel from Scotland down to Birmingham to train as often as I could.
Yeah.
And so such is life. When the guy moved to America, one guy moved to America from Scotland, I traveled to America on his behalf to teach him. Because, but not because he was teaching anyone, but simply because he wanted to learn. Such is,
so
dedication.
do you think this opinion from Dave here kind of stems from his instructor? I mean, he's turning around and he's saying, this explains why so much in-depth knowledge does not exist. Where's he getting it from? Who's he being taught by?
I'm not going to name his instructors, or I'm not.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
But I can give I've already give the reasons why, because they're not getting the information. They're not going to be able to give the information. Often they have to make it up. And when I went to Scotland for the first time and had to take over Scotland, they were just making it up. They had absolutely no idea what they were doing. They had no idea what they were doing, and it was an eye opener for me. I didn't realize. But that's what happened.
Like you've touched on. In all fairness, there are differing standards of Lau Gar. There are differing standards.
Well, there's no doubt about that. We know that. We accept that.
It's just where you are, the luck of the draw. You turn up into a class that just wants the competition fight. Great, you're going to be good at that. And etc. Vice versa.
And the difference is you understand that they have got a source of information, so they'll all, because I think there is a thread in there where they talk about the unity of Lau or of the BKFA, and I think they're missing the point that the unity of BKFA is what makes the
style.
It's what makes the center. It's what makes everybody able to come in and learn it should they wish to. Often there are people both in and out of the style who only want to be a teacher. They don't necessarily want to teach. And unfortunately, life's like that. So some of them just want to be, important, and others just want to dedicate themselves to their students. And such is life. That's the way it goes. That's in and out of the martial arts.
I mean,
any martial art.
I think when you start, being, extremely specific, you've got to be careful of the language you use. Obviously, Zhong Sao is Wing Chun, and it's like obvious. Why? Because it looks similar. I mean, are we not considering that? Maybe certain techniques,
they all come from the same place.
Because
they all come from the same place.
Maybe. I don't know, so it's like,
He also talks about the fact that all of them look different, so they're all from a mishmash and different things. Am I saying that right? Yeah. So basically, we've always talked about how you can translate one form into the next form by the development of your training. You're capable of interpreting a particular move, and then when it comes to the next form, you're doing that same move or very similar in a different combination for a different reason, sometimes in a different direction, but basically it's the same concept, right? It's for a different purpose or a different reason, maybe in a different angle, but pretty much many of the movements are pretty much the same. And then as you go through the sets, they just add extra techniques that you would then develop yourself as you go. But the only exception to that I can say is Chop Choi, which is just aimed at one single punch,
because it's a specific
specific technique that is very, very hard to be able to use.
Right.
And so people imagine it's like so because we always punch like so. But of course, that's the same as saying a punch is like that. Well, it isn't. That's called a dead punch. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the same as saying, you know, a palm strike is hitting like that. No, it isn't.
No.
That particular one is hitting like that.
Yeah.
So when you hit like that, that is called the dead palm. And this is a dead punch. And of course, this, not that one, sorry, that one is a dead, you know, Phoenix Eye, if you want to call it that. So it actually hits like that, and then it finishes like that. So you got to drill.
Well, there's your thrust.
It's drill. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now,
are we giving too much away? Are we giving all the secrets away?
We can't give away secrets. Can't give away secrets. Okay. Well, to you know, coming soon. Sharp Choy for Dummies. Right. Now, well, we'll get old Dave had a few comments, so we'll get back to him. Have you ever heard of a guy called Mark Haughton? You know Mark Haughton?
Right. I have heard of it.
Yes. Now, Mark Haughton, he chips in. If you don't know who Mark Haughton is, guys, he is the current master of the Lau Gar lineage, Hung Gar, based out of Hong Kong, Fanling. Now, just pure coincidence, this David is now affiliated with, Mark Haughton. Although, you know, we don't know if they are or not still. It's kind of funny. It's kind of weird. Anyway, Mark Haughton, he says, and I don't know whether to do his Brummie accent, his Coventry accent, it's all right, or should I do his genuine, like, okay, Chinese accent now, because I've lived over there for so long, I speak Chinese accent. Okay, so, I mean, I don't understand that. Why aren't you speaking like, why are you talking like Constable Benton Fraser? I don't know. This is crazy. Right.
It is.
Right. Mark Haughton says, the respected master of Hung Gar. He says, Master Yao was a cook in a Chinese takeaway in the 70s. The birth of UK's Lau Gar was the mastermind of Steve Hague. He means Mike Hague.
He does mean Mike Hague, yeah.
Think that's how you spell his name. He was a karate black belt who wanted to jump on the Bruce Lee bandwagon. So he got Jeremy Yao to front it with a Chinese face. Their first form was Wing Chun Sunim Tao in a wide horse stance. Steve Babs and Frank Lynch made the fight inside of it. Over the years, they have added more forms from other martial arts and teaching them as Lau Gar Kun. If he can now copyright his name, then someone can copyright football, tennis, or swimming. Plus, Lau is a family name. Copyrighting this means what? Nobody can use their family name in the UK. Bullshit, Jeremy Yao. Now, he's got a point about the copyright. Now, you know, he's got a point.
I totally agree, and I'm not even going to go into it because I can't
copyright a name.
You can't copyright names. No, I agree. That's a common, a common, fallacy. But it's nothing to do with that copyright. It's bringing it to the fact that he was a cook.
So you mean he wasn't a waiter?
No, I believe he was a waiter.
So he was a cook. Mark says he was a cook.
No, he was no cook. I mean, I tasted his chicken on the British Kung Fu Association summer course, cooked from fresh, and my girlfriend was sick. Now,
not on a barbecue by any chance.
It was on a barbecue.
Oh,
on the beach. Now, there's totally no disrespect to him at all, and I'm sure he'll agree. But although he no doubt is good at maybe Chinese cooking, I have no idea. But he's not, to my knowledge, and I'm saying to you that irrespective of whether he's a cook or waiter or whatever, whether he worked in a restaurant or whatever, which is what he came over the country for, to Britain for, it makes absolutely no bloody difference because no one was making money out of martial arts at that time, right, in terms of Kung Fu.
So what was Mark Haughton doing in the UK before he went over to Hong Kong, became a master?
Well, he was doing Hung Gar. Once Hung Gar started here, he was doing Hung Gar. Master Yao actually has a soft spot for him. He did actually have some respect for his training. He was pretty keen on Mark. So with his and of course he's from Birmingham or Coventry or wherever, some area. But he most definitely doesn't talk like he talks now. That's for sure. So when you're talking about something being genuine, that's all I need to say. When you're talking about something being genuine, look, don't come out with a shit like that.
Look, this is what you might be listening to this and might want to refute me or whatever. You talk about from Lau Gar, right? Lau Gar can no more trace their lineage any more than we can. Fact. You've got like three periods of history, right? In Southern Chinese martial arts. You've got the legacy or the legend period, which is like the time of the Shaolin temple, all these, the 5 elders, blah, blah, blah. There is no sort of official historical record.
Destruction of the temple.
Yeah, well, they can't even agree that there was a Southern Shaolin temple. Like, there's no evidence for this other than anecdotal, passed down from people to people, whatnot, right? So you've got that stage of the history, which you can't prove because it was never.
But you're not talking about the ruins and stuff like that, because obviously the ruins are there. So there was a temple as such.
But there was many different temples, right? There was many. So you can't prove that. No one can. Fact. When it comes to the actual history that we talk about in Lau Gar, meaning sort of Master Yao's grandfather and who he learned from Tang Hoi Ching and Wang Gungwing, we're going back roughly to like the mid 19th century, sort of 18th. Exactly the same with Lau Gar. They really, when you get to like Lam Sai Wing and then his student Wan Fei Hung, there's like it's around that same period. Wan Fei Hung slightly afterwards, of course, he was alive in the 20th century. But you can't go back any further than that without, you can't say you've got proof. You can't. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't. Fact. In Lau Gar, they don't even have a picture of Wan Fei Hung, right? This is how crazy these arguments are about lineage and stuff. Then you've got sort of the modern history, which I guess for us, the modern history would be sort of Master Yao in the UK from the 70s onwards. And as you've mentioned, as you've said before, the results kind of speak for themselves. So, when we're talking about lineage, why can't we just, this is, for me, it's the red herring, it's what, get people to look at this and, they might believe it. To me, it makes no difference whatsoever in terms of, if you can prove it, if you can't prove it. What matters, and I won't say the ability to fight, and because that's an individual thing. What matters is the modern history that you can prove, the science, strategy, and tactics, which we can all have an opinion on. But really, science is absolute, right? It's like you can't, refute it.
You can't refute it unless you've got a better theory.
Right, okay, and so that's what we're talking about. So when we talk about lineage, this is why I hate the debate about lineage. Oh, I want to belong to a genuine style with genuine lineage. Like Wing Chun, they can't argue. Was it the nun, Nuk Moi, who taught Yin Wing Chun, or did it originate from the Red Boat Opera Company? They don't know that. There's two different theories in Wing Chun. So they can't agree. No one can. All that matters is, the science, strategy, and tactics, because I'm afraid that's all you got, And if you want to talk about, your style being not made up, particularly, Lau Gar, I'm just saying, umbrella form. I'm just saying. I mean, was the umbrella a traditional Shaolin weapon or not? So let's not conflate with what's made up and what's not. Oh, Wang Fei Hung had an umbrella, so it's like, oh God, Jesus Christ, use it properly, respect, but don't say your style goes all the way back lineage-wise, and it's authentic and it's this and that. You can't prove it. No one can. No one can.
We do have anecdotes, if you like. We can call them anecdotes because history is a very difficult thing to prove. Even in British history, it's very difficult to prove. You know, after a certain period of time, you have to make assertions based on evidence that you find, right? So if there's no evidence, as you say, then you cannot call it fact. But historically, history by definition is not always fact. It's only based on the best evidence you can find.
You mean,
and so when we
the victor writes history, does it? You know, history.
Yeah, that's right. Many times, yes, that's true. But if you talk about like Shaolin, for instance, we do have stories about Shaolin and of a monk who was punished and therefore, shall we say, let slip to the authorities that they were supporting the old dynasty,
right?
And therefore that's why it was sacked and destroyed. And we also have anecdote evidence that you know, a number of people went on the run, and we also have the evidence that certain people developed you know, where it went underground. 5 people went underground and developed the 5, as we known as ancient styles or ancient sects.
But is it evidence? Is it evidence?
No, it's anecdotal evidence. So that's what I'm saying. There is nothing written, and this is the point. It's so basically it's supported by the various different styles, which all come to the same conclusion that there were, you know, so many sects or Gar. So you've got Hung, Choi, Li, Mark, you know, and Lau, and whatever the other one is. What did I say?
No,
I've
you said them all.
now. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yes. So it's the thing that gets me is, although you know, people can claim to be, you know, masters, or they can claim to be hereditary masters, you know, given that choice or given that privilege, you've got to uphold that, and you've got to maintain that. And if you are going to have people bow in front of you who they're already bowed in front of someone else and bow in front of others, that's where you have to question it, whether or not that is a, you know, the right thing to do, shall we say.
Well,
I guess that's all on video.
When you've got a nice envelope of money, you're less likely to answer some questions, right?
Yeah, okay.
Or ask some questions, but hey, that's just my opinion. Right. Anyway, Alan, he pipes up. He says, "I've been doing Lau Gar now for over 10 years, and this question does crop up every few years. If this helps in any way, these are my current thoughts. Master Yao says he learned his kung fu from his grandfather, who had 2 masters, one of which was the lineage holder for Lau Gar. Maybe he wasn't really the lineage holder. It's impossible to say now, as I understand it. It's impossible to say now. As I understand it, the family styles are difficult to trace because they were often kept secret. I think they were actively banned for a bit." That's right. Yeah, they were.
I think he's probably making sense.
Yeah, right. And he goes on. "My understanding of Lau Gar, of the Lau Gar form in Hung Gar, is that it may have been a family style of someone called Lau, which was then adapted by the great Wang Fei Hung to be more Hung Gar again. No one really knows because everyone involved is long dead." Yeah. He's got a point.
The issue there, of course, is that they are all pretty much the same area. They came from the same place.
Well, look,
and they're always going to look the same. But the opinion of the individual set up the styles, namely Hung or Lau, they're from a different kind of. They may be completely different sized people, completely different attitudes, completely different reasoning, and they are not from the Shaolin Temple. They have been taught by people on the run.
Yeah.
Anecdotal information, alleged. So what we have are 2 completely separate people in those 2 styles. Wing Chun wasn't one of those. It came later. And then we're talking about a situation where they're going to be sharing those styles or sharing those techniques, but perhaps preferring more powerful blows, as in Hung Gar.
Yeah, right.
Faster blows because maybe the guy was smaller. in terms of Lau Gar.
Right.
So you have a tea merchant and you have a tiger hunter. Both have different views. And by the look of those two different pastimes or occupations, we can see why they would have different views.
I'd say so.
Simple.
I'd definitely say that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Goes on. Old Alan. He says, however, it's possible that they were all the same Lau Gar at one point. When you meet Lau Gar guys from all over the UK, you see quite a bit of variation in the forms. And that's just in 40 years.
Yeah.
And being quite close to Master Yao. Yeah, he's right there. You get so much variation. He's not true. Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine
true,
what several generations and a bit of distance would do. An example of this would be Chen Tai Chi. The differences between old frame and new frame are vast, yet it's the same form separated by 40 odd years and several thousand miles. I don't know much about Bay Logan, he says. I've seen that one quote many times, though. He seems very sure, but he'll never say why he thinks that.
I think we can take Bay Logan out of the equation because he would be just totally. He needs to hear his voice, his own voice.
Yeah. Anyway, so the author, Martial Art Cheats, he then says, I did Lao back in the late 70s. And what Yao teaches is not Lau Gar at all, but a mishmash of Wing Chun and other styles thrown in. The reason you see different interpretations is simply because people kept leaving him. Too much of a long story, he says. I believe you. It is. He decided to add troves from the start and at the end of each form. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's not authentic Lau Gar, and that is a fact. But if you enjoy it, then that's all that matters. Don't get lost in all this bullshit, he says. Right. So, mishmash of Wing Chun, other styles thrown in, blah, blah, blah.
So where's these facts from?
This is the problem with them all. So they're giving us opinions, okay, not facts.
That they expect to be facts, yeah.
Well, yeah. Now, I've said to you, I mean, how do I know you're telling the truth? How do we know? You don't. You can.
You don't.
Well, there you
all
go.
you can do is
at least we're honest about it, eh, people?
If it's the same story for the last 40 years, I think pretty much you can say it's the truth.
Well, there you go.
If it's never been changed, and it has never been changed, the story, the history, the advice, and so on has never been changed.
Do you know what? I used to own a Land Rover Discovery Series 1, and it had Morris Minor door handles. Still open the frigging door. Do you know what I mean? What's the difference?
Sorry, I was just going to say about that guy that just says it's all fact, and lots of people left him. Yeah, people left him for a good reason. A lot of people just wouldn't take being told what to do. They wouldn't take the traditional manner. They wouldn't take the traditional way.
Let me ask you a question.
A lot of people stayed with him.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, right? So, and I won't put this to you. You're sort of like you're a good fighter. You were at Lau Gar. No, I'm generalizing. I'm saying, no,
right.
I'm saying you're a good fighter, old man. Come on. No. So you're a good fighter, right? You've been with Lau Gar from the inception of it, okay? You were there. You were there before Master Yao. You were there after Master Yao. You learned a bit more about your trade, your craft, or whatever. Suddenly, I mean, this is a hypothetical, granted, but suddenly you now think, right, I'm damn good now. I can fight. I can do this. I'm at what point do you sort of go, I don't need Master Yao?
Yeah.
What point? And why? And that's pretty common, isn't it? To be fair.
That's absolutely common in all martial arts.
Yeah, right.
At what point do you start going, you know what, I'm going to take all my students with me and I'm going to start my own thing?
Right.
At what point?
So,
that is where you have to decide on when people survive or don't survive.
Right. Okay.
And that's on their business acumen, not on their knowledge.
Right. Do you think that Mike Tyson's trainer could have won in a fight against Tyson? Gus D'Amato? I don't think so.
No.
Why did Tyson stay with him?
Because he was honest and he taught him well.
Yeah.
And he owed him.
Right, there you go.
And he had some respect.
Yeah.
He went to pieces as soon as he died.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Now, no one's perfect. Everyone's a human being. And believe it or not, people, I don't know Master Yao, but I'm pretty sure that he's made quite a few mistakes in his life, as we all have.
Yes,
as we all have. No one's perfect. You know, but
you notice he hasn't jumped on the thread and started saying no.
Yeah, well,
no.
why is this not? It just, you know, I'm pretty
because he's heard it all before.
He's heard it all before, right? Anyway, Sean jumps in. He says, I've trained in Lau Gar years ago and had to leave due to family and work. I asked the same question. John Sao, they're always going back to the second set. They're always saying it looks like Wing Chun. Like, it does. Yes. Right. John Sao looks very Wing Chun.
Can I just add?
Go on.
Take a look at the beginning of Fu Hok Sun Ying and tell me what that looks like. You know, you know.
It looks like Michael Jackson doing the Billie Jean. Okay, right. He did it, MJ. Right, okay.
Yeah, he did.
I asked the same question. John Sao looks very Wing Chun, but you can ask the same about other styles I trained in. I trained in Bujinkan Ninjutsu, Krav Maga lineage. I trained Lau Gar under one of the Guardians, Sifu Stuart Hunt, and thought it was a good style back then. But I have watched some of the seminars on YouTube and have asked, what the hell have I just watched? Not the Lau Gar I remember. We go on. Sean says, I was talking to Master Yao years ago when I was a purple sash and was telling him about my uncle that lived in Hong Kong and my Chinese aunt being a friend of Bruce Lee. He was telling me about his grandfather teaching him. Years later, a mate who did Taekwondo said, that's bollocks. He heard he created it, which you can't find much in. A
Taekwondo guy said,
that's bollocks.
That he created it.
Where's Taekwondo
from?
We just can't. We don't have the time. We don't have the time. Right. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, that's
if we just sat here and laughed for the hour, that would probably do it all.
Probably. You know, God bless him. God bless him. God bless him. Okay. He says, you know, that's bollocks. He created it, which you can't find much info, only through the BKFA website. Same with the other styles I trained, Bujinkan Ninjutsu. You couldn't find no lineage about that's because it's friggin' made up by like 9 other ninjutsu styles and all the rest of it. You know, like, I mean, that guy with purple hair is a lunatic. He says lunatic. You know, and that was it really. That's his little thing. You know, yeah. I mean, Christ's sake, you know. Anyway, Lorraine, she chips in on this thread. It's a great thread, this. We've got some good talking material out of it. She says, fake. Of course, I can only judge based on my experience in Lau Gar Island, the endless lies I was told, and the many more I discovered. Might this be the very first lie? Okay.
Well, for her, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that you can find some better stuff, but the problem you've got there, of course, is we talked about distances before.
Yeah.
And so people can only do what they can do there. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, if she's willing to sort of find other instructors at the same style, she would probably find a completely different approach, as with many other styles. So, you know, I'm sorry that she got the wrong, you know, information, or she believes she got the wrong information. So, and obviously I can't speak for her. So,
yeah.
But yeah, if she wants to ask us a question, she's welcome to. Hey. I'll work with all her lies for her.
Hey, that's great.
I'll help her. If there's anything she's been told that she wants to dispute or she wants to confirm, then yeah, I'm welcome. She's welcome to get in touch.
There you go. Right. Anyway, Mo, he chips in. Mohammed says, personally, it doesn't look like the Southern style it's marketed to be. I don't know if it's, what does that mean? It's marketed to be. What does he expect? I don't get that. It doesn't look
what
like
does he know
Southern
about Southern styles?
I don't know. He must know something because it wasn't marketed that way. Okay. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. That's a good one, though. Anyway, Ed says, this is very interesting as it's the style I saw at tournaments, winning all the time. I stopped training in kickboxing and took up Lau Gar because of it. And then the author chips in. He says, hey, the fighting side of the style was run by Steve Babs and Frank Lynch. Nothing to do with Yao. Nothing to do with Yao, he says. So let's quash this. Let's quash this. Look, Steve Babs, Frank Lynch, the main guys at the, put it on the map, so to speak. How much of it was them? How much of it was that? We've had this conversation earlier, but let's just reiterate.
They were just characters in the A team.
Right.
That's it. They were characters in the A team, and there's no doubt that their personalities, spread across people in the A team. They were damn good at what they did. But it was Master Yao who ran the A team, who ran the style. It was Master Yao who did who taught them how to change the way they fought against karate people, which gave them a completely different outlook. Now, that's not taking anything away from them previously. I mean, I can tell you stories about Steve Babs in street fights. I can tell you, about stories where I had to fight that A team when I was a white sash. Where I stood there screaming and shouting everything I could, and the guy just lifted his leg, and I ducked and looked up, and he bang, same leg. He hadn't even put it down. So yeah, it was a day. And when Frank Lynch would walk into a national squad with a white suit on like bloody Shaft, and with his white cane, just look at you, and if you were sitting on a front seat there next to the ring, he would just look at you, and you'd get up and move because he was it was a nasty looking piece of work. And so I saw that happen. That was really interesting. And I'd heard from other people that he did that, and I just saw him do it, and it was really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the characters. They were amazing characters from the 70s. You're talking Shaft. You're talking, bloody, I don't know, all sorts of different characters from that time.
Huggy Bear. Hey.
It was amazing. It was an amazing time. Amazing time.
Oh, it sounds it's great.
But that was, and the fighting proved itself, and that guy's just confirmed it as well in his statement there.
Yeah, absolutely.
They weren't the only fighters. There were some damn good names.
Well, you've got a list somewhere, haven't you?
Well, those are of people since then, and as I developed, I learned more about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll read them out. Okay, so this is quite possibly the funniest comment I've probably ever read. It was genius. I mean, the guy called Andy, he wrote it, right? And bear in mind, we're talking about sort of made up styles, lineage, etc. This is genius. Let me read it all out. I'll try and do it justice. Andy says, at the end of the day, does it matter what you call your art? It's all about putting someone's fist or foot into someone's face. I'm in the process of revealing to the world the system I learned from the Far East, the art of fuck up. It's
fuck up.
I'm trying to be, it's from the Fukin province.
Fucking province.
Yeah, thanks for the, okay.
I'll leave the rest for other people to make up then.
But other styles come from Sai Ying and Wan Ying. It's known for three forms. The conditioning form, Teki Shoti. The defensive second form. So there's three forms in fuck up. He says there's the conditioning shot. The conditioning form, Teki Shoti, the defensive, the defensive second form, Blocky Shoti. Both of these forms I learned under the late Master Yao Sensei, and the final attacking form, Dishi Baki, studied under Master Getty Festin. Okay, but Andy, he only teaches privately now or kaching. Oh, that's genius. That's brilliant. Come on.
That was brilliant. Yeah. Well done.
Funny.
Well done, Andy.
That's brilliant. Okay.
He's obviously not a fan of traditional martial arts. Is it really?
But I think that's great. That's brilliant. Okay. Oh, shit. Anyway, the author then, I don't know which comment this was referring to, but anyway, he chips in. He says, sorry, you're wrong. I did Lao back in 1975. It's not traditional Kung Fu. This is a made-up style. As for all the forms looking different, that comes down to Yao adding bits once people started to leave the BKFA. So did Master Yao add forms once people started leaving the BKFA?
He started adding forms when he became the chief instructor after 2 years.
Right.
For the first 2 years, he would not use the name Lau. He would not use his, but he there's no doubt he would have played a role in applying various training methods and training forms, therefore, within the style that was already prevailed. But it's highly unlikely he would have had everything going. And then obviously at that time, I would definitely agree that he would start to introduce his own training format to it. And there's no doubt, of course, remember, you're talking about a guy that would only train and teach his family sometime before he came to the UK. So you're talking about someone who had to learn to teach en masse.
Right.
Because at that point in time, until you saw the method that karate used, which is everyone standing in a row, drilling, until you see that, he would not have been adverse to that. It would not have been
familiar with it.
Familiar with it, I should say.
Yeah,
probably was adverse to it because but
Well, we've talked about that before. It's not the best, but at the end of the day, it had to be. That was
because that's the only way you could fit the people in.
Right, of course.
I mean, and of course, if you think about it, you think about it today, we're talking about smaller classes, but spread so far away from the teacher.
Yeah.
And so therefore you're going to have a mismatch and also a very poor quality in many areas.
Yeah.
But of course, if you look at that in the old days, you would have had one full class with hundreds of people training. And in that class, you would have had people so far away from the instructor that they would have had a completely misunderstood concept of what they were learning.
Yeah.
And it's highly unlikely they would walk up to the master and say, oh, can you show me this? Can you show me that? Because so many people had to go through that training. They would train them hard, and because they didn't have to worry about losing people. And as years gone by, of course, the training has become much easier because people are too scared to push people to a point where they just leave because, which is why you're getting a lot of, people who couldn't push their way out of a paper bag to fight. And you're getting, young ladies wanting to learn self-defense who couldn't defend themselves in a month of Sundays. And you've got old people coming to learn genuine Kung Fu, which, if they were to learn it realistically, they wouldn't do a push-up.
Right.
Because that would be so hard to do, in effect, the way that they would be done. And the repetitive training, there's just no way they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're looking at an environment which is a totally different environment today than what it was then.
Sure.
And then you've got people coming out with this bullshit, in the safety of their own, texting.
No, we haven't even begun yet, because what I found to be one of the most ridiculous comments written on this thread, I'm about to read out now. And this person, we know.
Okay.
We know. Okay. And he's, shall we say, an ex-student? Anyway.
Right, yeah. Okay.
This was Matt. And Matt pipes up.
Hi, Matt.
Hey. I studied Lao with the BKFA for 20 years. On and off.
No, we didn't.
Hang on, I've got to finish it first. You've got to correct everything he's talking about.
Okay. Sorry.
Please. I know I can't get through but 3 words of this without you saying lie, but right, on and off. And now teach it independently from the BKFA. Over the years, when I first heard that this was made up and it was full of lies. I have studied probably everything out there seeking the truth, and it's a hard pill to swallow. Finding out the style you love and have trained in is probably all bullshit. Hold yourself. Right. A lot of that was my ego and wanting to believe the stories that hold the BKFA together was true. I wanted to belong to a true lineage. Now I've matured and got over that. I still teach it because why should I stop training and teaching something I love? As a made-up system, it has a great... I
can't get this.
No.
I just don't get that. I don't get that.
As a made-up system, it has a great teaching structure for the student. Wait for it.
Okay.
Apart from the knife defense, which I've removed because it doesn't work. Because the forms are obviously from a mixed match of other styles, I have had to study other styles so I can understand them better. Pray do tell, sir, what other styles have you studied? Okay, right. Okay, I believe a lot of the BKFA instructors are living in cloud cuckoo land, but there are also some great Lau instructors out there. I don't really understand the loyalty they have to Master Yao, but everyone to their own, he says. It is very sad how they are so close-knitted and refuse to believe the truth, as it really stops them from looking outside the box. Since leaving the BKFA, I have found a new passion for the style I never had before, because the answers I was given for the applications, I couldn't believe. Half of the instructors out there don't know what they're for. I still call it Lau, though, which has caused quite a few disturbances with the BKFA, which I find quite funny. I know I must be doing something right, as I have attracted a lot of students that have studied Lau in the past to a high level. No, really? I would love to know who they are.
Yeah,
I would love to know.
Give me one name.
He tried to get me on side. Did you know this? He tried to sort of poach me. Okay, right. Yeah, sure. Okay, right. Right, anyway. I have attracted a lot of students who have studied Lau in the past to a high level and have had their eyes wide open with the way I teach it. To me, lineage doesn't make much difference. No offense to anybody there, but as it's been mentioned before, all systems were made up once. As long as you are truthful to your students, that's what matters.
That's about it, isn't it? That's about it. As long as you're truthful to your students, you call it Lau, but you don't teach Lau because it doesn't work. But you want to call it Lau anyway because you love it. And, you know, you chose to go with the people that told you it was crap. But then you thought, yeah, but if I go with lots of different styles, that'll teach me how to teach Lau. So now I'll be able to do Lau, call it Lau, but learn something else.
It's amazing. I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
How this guy manages to put one foot in front of the other and, you know, use that brain, I don't know. Anyway, it's not finished yet. Not finished.
Christ,
I have studied under a lot of great instructors and have added my flair to it, he says. Is that what you call it? As I always say, your credentials...
I can see a video coming on.
Oh, there'll be one. There'll be one. A brief one. We don't want to hark on this too much.
No.
As I always say, your credentials should be on the mat, not on paper. This is not an invitation either. I'm approaching 50 now, lol. But anyone is welcome to train at my school, which is not what you get with a lot of BKFA instructors. Have a great day, Mammoth Quote, blah, blah, blah. I don't normally comment on these things, but it's something I'm quite passionate about. He says, let me just read you one reply to that, and then his final reply, which I thought was quite funny, and then we will comment on it. Okay, so Dave, he replies to Matt. He says, interesting how you can still teach it independently. I've trained with them for over 10 years, getting my first degree black and brown belt in kickboxing. After I left the organization, I was informed by one of the guardians that I was stripped of all my belts and qualifications, coaching courses, referees courses, etc., and was not allowed to teach the syllabus ever again. And if I did, there would be consequences. And to finish it off, Matt replies, which I thought was quite funny. He says, Dave, yeah, I've been told the same thing, but there's nothing they can do to stop you. If they did take me to court, I'd just change the name slightly. There you go. There you go. He respects and loves it. Right.
Why doesn't he just change the name anyway?
I don't know. Well, hey, watch this
because of its reputation.
Right.
No, that's why the only reason to keep a 3-letter Chinese name is because of its reputation and for no other reason. So, especially if you think it's made up like any other style.
Right.
So should you choose to keep this Lau, and when you walk down the street with this, they go, what's lager? So if you're going to keep the name because you just like the letters, fine. But then don't turn around and say, oh, it's all fake, but I want to keep the name anyway.
Well, hang on a second. He makes quite a, like, it's quite a common thing for him to, wear a belt from a style that he thinks is crap, or made up. I mean, what did he?
Yeah,
what did he say?
Tell you,
yeah. You told me in one of his emails. He said, bear in mind he does all these YouTube videos, which which are crap. Let's face it, they're awful, and we've talked about some of them. But he wears his PKA, Professional Kickboxing Association, 3rd degree black belt, and then in the emails to you, he calls the PKA. I left the PKA, he says. I left the PKA because they are a Mickey Mouse franchise. But he'll still wear the belt on his videos. There you go.
He'll still wear the Lau, and he still goes and looks for a sash that can call him Lau Gar, black sash.
Well, yeah. Well, he was
but he couldn't get it from the BKFA. He couldn't get it from a genuine source.
No. He
had to go elsewhere to try to buy a belt.
Yes.
And I mean, that training is also on video, incidentally.
Yeah,
I was just thinking, have you ever had a black sash given to you, James?
Wait, hang on. Right, I've got my bag of that. I'm going through it now. Wait there. No, never.
No.
I feel conned. I feel ripped off.
I've never given you a black sash. I've never sold you a black sash.
Never once, not once.
You've not offered me any money.
I thought, did I offer you enough? I don't know, but
no,
not
obviously
once.
Just
not once.
Not once.
So
isn't that a funny thing? How people would just go and get a black sash because they think it's going to make them more important. But I think the most important thing is what you actually see them doing.
Yeah.
If you can see them actually doing some. I've already said this, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years training, you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't about a certificate.
No.
You can see it.
Yeah, it emanates, doesn't it? It just emanates, but,
And incidentally, by the way, I just thought I'd add in.
Yeah.
I have been authorized and given the authority, if you like,
right,
to take gradings.
Right.
Black sash gradings.
Yeah. 1st
degree, 2nd degree, and a 3rd degree.
Okay. By who? What?
By Master Yao.
Right. Okay. This wasn't
because I took them in America.
Right. Okay.
At the end of the day, Master Yao asked me to take gradings. The only reason I actually did videos of it for Master Yao was for the benefit of the people who wanted Master Yao to see them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
So and that was it. And then Master Yao got the certificates to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to see his flair in Lau Gar?
Yeah,
you do, right? So bear in mind, he has studied Lau Gar for 20 years, and he has called himself a master.
He does say in my email, he says he doesn't. He says someone else called him a master.
Oh,
well,
it was them, not me. It was them.
It's got nothing to do with
Right.
whether he calls himself a master or not, and it's nothing to do with how many years he claims to have trained, which he hasn't. What I have to say is it's totally to do with what you are teaching and how good you are when you actually do it to teach it. So if you're not very good yourself, you cannot expect anyone else to be any good, and therefore you are pulling the wool over people's eyes.
Purely educational. This is a video of this guy doing sticking hands. Hit it. I mean, I'm not being funny. Like, that's not 20. That's not even sticking. I don't know what that was. I just don't.
He got punched in the face in the first 3 seconds
by his student.
The guy. Yeah.
Don't bob and weave like that.
And he didn't even
sticking hands.
They're not even sticking.
No. But we can hark on all day. We've done lots of videos about this guy who's quite frankly, but. I still respect it, even though it's made up. What's made up? What's made up? What you just did was made up. Jesus. Oh, good God, man. Get a grip.
Yeah, what annoys me is what he says about instructors, don't actually know
what the applications
for. So he goes some other junk style and then works out what the applications are. Can always tell you what the applications are. You only had to ask, but the fact that you couldn't get that good, forget it. There's no point in teaching you anything else.
It's crazy. But this is the kind of people we've dealt with, and they're the kind of people who are, in the martial arts sort of fraternity, and you have to be very careful about who
you've got to understand. The whole purpose of this is to protect students. Now, students will go with the people like this.
Yeah,
and they will stick with them because A, they feel sorry for them, and B, they become big goldfish in little goldfish bowls, as we talk about already.
Yeah,
and it's we've had students before that have come. I had one girl come in Scotland, and she went, "I'm trying to decide whether to take my white sash in the Lau Gar or take my brown belt in the Taekwondo, and I don't know what should I do." And I says, "Can you fight? Can you spar?" And she went, "Yeah, we do sparring in Taekwondo."
Right.
And I went, "Will you show me some of your sparring?" And I sort of stood there with her, and I do think she just stepped and
right.
And she was taking a brown belt.
It's that single step stuff they do, and
and
I've seen it. I know.
I said, "Would you rather be a good?" white sash or a very bad brown sash.
Yeah.
But we've had people that go off to clubs. They've gone off to different clubs and they've come back and they went, "Oh, it's so embarrassed." They went and they're like green sashes or something. They've gone off and the guy in the club has decided, the instructor has gone, "Oh, do some sparring. He goes, "Oh yeah, we do sparring." And the guy couldn't even hit him. Do you know what I mean? The green sash just beat 7 bags of crap out of him. And I've had it myself. I've experienced it myself, and I had to pretend I was tired. I had to go, "Oh yeah, it's all right." I swept him about 18 times all the way around his gym. And all his students stopped training, started watching him. They started watching us, and he's just, every time he got up, he was desperately trying to hit me, and I was just moving back, letting him come. And as he was coming, every time he just tried to kick, bump, stick his leg from under him, every single time. And in the end, I just had to say, I'm tired. Yeah.
Well, we same thing in one of our classes. We had a guy who'd done Aikido, still was doing it, and he was like a whatever degree black belt. And you know, he's like, well, do you want to do some sparring or whatever? And he's yeah, great. And I just remember just back fist reverse, hitting him. And at the end, it was just like embarrassing. So I said, oh, that was lucky. lucky. good effort, mate. You know, and it's just like, oh, whatever. You know, it happens. But now, you know, these things happen. Now, the thing is, right, we
stop saying it's a bloody fake star, for God's sake.
No, that's it. But this kind of brings us round, because this comment from this Matt was actually sort of followed up by the post we talked about at the start, you know, about trolls. You know, apparently we're trolling here. No, we're not. We're just trying to protect people. I mean, listen, haven't you got some email quotes from this Matt written directly to you, which kind of will kind of vindicate our position for all those people who are saying we're picking on people or trolling people or we're just toxic people? What have you got there, and give us a bit of context?
Okay, well, bearing in mind that I'm not going to read all his emails out, that wouldn't be fair to him, but I am going to just make a couple of points that the emails say, which, and basically, if people don't believe me, that's fine. Then, you know, I'm sure Matt will comment on it. Maybe Matt will say, you know, I didn't write that or whatever. Well, the proof is in the email. So, but I'm not going to give out the emails as such. Anyway, this is his first email. It says, I've watched your YouTube videos and listened to your podcasts, and I actually find them really interesting. Well, thanks, Matt.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks. The ones with myself in, I wasn't totally impressed with at first.
Oh, you can't just take it back.
However, I was looking at it through my own eyes, and I think I do understand where you're coming from, and I'm happy to put it right. Well, he's put it right because I think he's trying to start a new style again now, isn't he?
I think maybe
he's on to his third, fifth, sixth master.
Should we do the iron wire palm?
If you want.
I mean, I'm not saying nothing. Go for it. Good luck.
And he goes on to say, I do not profess myself to be a great technical martial artist at all. Well, we're in agreement there. I think I have fairly good knowledge, as I have trained under a lot of high-ranked instructors like yourself.
Whoa. Compliment. Pat yourself on the back.
Well. Yeah. So anyway, he says, I could go on for a long time about the videos, but that is not the purpose of this letter. The real reason is to really say sorry for what I have done.
Oh, wow.
And I do believe I could have handled things in a much better way. Yeah, well, I mean, people know the story. I'm not going to go into the story, but he did eventually decide he kept on telling people that he didn't owe me any money and that I lied. And apparently his son told someone in some supermarket that you'd stolen loads of money off me and all this, because his son was under the impression that you were the bad guy.
Where does he get this idea from?
Well, yeah. Well, you can see how things, like I said, you know, the truth is out. The truth will be out at some point in time. And there you go. Anyway, to go on, the syllabus that I teach is from Lau Gar. I know in your view it's pretty crap, but I am what you call a jack of all trades. So there's by his own admittance, he's accepting that.
Yep.
And so on. Right, so you may think I am making it all up from what I'm teaching, but it really is a mixture using the Lau Gar syllabus to form a basic foundation for students to learn from. I'm not sure what else I can do apart from the Taekwondo patterns I learned from in those days. Besides, the Lau Gar forms are great, whereas the TKFP patterns don't make sense at all to me. Yes, he did say that, and that's why I'm quoting it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's made up, though. It's bullshit.
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
Of course it is.
Right, okay, all right.
That's right. Before I leave you, I do want to say that I really respect you as a martial artist, and what really hurts is that I loved the time I spent training and teaching underneath you. Thank you, Matt.
Cool.
I do blame my naivety for all that has happened and would do things so differently now. I learned so much from you. Yeah, it's questionable. For years, I was blaming you, but I have done a lot of self-reflection, which has really helped me and what has probably prompted me to get in touch. And he goes on to say, I hope you accept my apologies and so on. So in the event that people think we're trolling people, here are little excerpts of some emails where one of them got in touch with me, because he knew damn well, all the stories we've told people, I won't go into it, all the stories that we've told people on our podcast about the way, I got crapped on by people. And here's one of them, admittedly, he wasn't one of the, top people, far from it, but he just listened to them rather than listen to me. He followed them, decided something in there for me, and decided to do his own thing. He went with them. He went with the PKA because it wasn't just them. So it was the knob in the PKA that actually gave them the idea that, I'm not paying him enough money. Perhaps if he can get rid of me and get my students straight to under him, he will be able to, make a lot more money. Wow. And of course, they listened to whatever bullshit he came out with, and the next thing you know, they're there with him. Well, not for long though.
Yeah. But you're a troll and you're toxic. But what you're saying, he's admitted to was, The point is, we're not making it up. We're telling the truth.
Well, exactly. Jeez. Of course we are. Okay, so to finish this, the last one he sent me was because I was a bit annoyed about this thread that he'd added, the one you've just read out.
Right.
I was annoyed about it after he'd finished paying me money.
Yeah. He paid you money? He paid you money?
He paid me money that he owed me, that he said he never owed me, that he said, was, I don't know what crap he was coming out with, but he was under a franchise with me as one of my students or instructors, if you like.
Now, you forgive me, but you don't.
Lau. I wouldn't let him teach the Lau.
No, not the Lau. You don't pay someone money back unless you really did take that money.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
Well, it's for people to make their own minds up, and if people want to keep on calling us trolls, they're welcome to.
Well, I think you.
But I think just to make a point, after he did start on this trend, this thread that you mentioned.
Yeah,
I told him how annoyed I was, and I will continue to, fact check what he talks about when he talks about Lau and the claims to be teaching it and so on. And as you've just seen, he's just already said he teaches it. Yep. And then in this next one, he says, sorry, but I think you have far too much time on your hands. I was just about to write up every account that you have appeared to be continuing this condemnation against me. It's not condemnation. It's just simple fact. Okay. If you want to go on calling yourself Lau and then teaching what you profess to do Lau, you don't go to someone to get a Lau black sash apart from the association that, runs
the governing body.
And then you go off to someone who left the association, so they'll give you one for a few dollars, a few pounds, and then you claim that you're now a Lau black sash. Well, no, you're not.
No,
and you are not going to be.
No.
And then you turn around and you say, "Well, I actually don't teach Lau after all." Well, you know why? Because now you're in the camp looking for another master with bloody my friend Steve.
Wait there. You've got to do. We know which direction you're going in, my friend. Best of luck. I'm sure Mark can't wait to have you on board representing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me just write this. I'll just read this last one because I have to make a point. Okay, so he says, sorry, but I do think you have far too much time on your hands. I was just about to write your account, blah, 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 blah. But I'd rather spend my Sunday doing things with my family and concentrate on my own training. Right now, he did say to me, I should be spending time with my family. But I have to say to the listener that I'm really lucky to maintain my family, to keep my family, Absolutely. Because when these people crapped on me, not only did I lose my house, but I also nearly lost my marriage and my family.
Yeah.
And there is no way on earth you think that I would forgive these people. I don't forgive anybody.
You're not a monk, are you, old man, eh?
I'm not a monk, no. And he says underneath, although I will continue to teach what I am, it is not Lau Gar that I teach.
What? He just said he was teaching it. He doesn't know whether he's coming or going, this boy, does he, eh?
These people are making it up as they go along. But if anyone wants to dispute that we're not telling the truth or we're trolling, then all they got to do is just ask Matt. He'll give you the emails if he wants to.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, then I will.
Yeah, there you go.
Simple as that. But you've got to have a vested interest, because I'm not going to just give his emails away for nothing, for no reason.
Absolutely.
Unless, people want to prove. I don't need to worry about people calling us this and calling us that. We have all the evidence we need. The thing is, remember, and what I said before, true premise leads to the truth at the end of the day, a true conclusion.
Right. Well, speaking of conclusions, what conclusions can we make after reading out that thread, after reading out, this exchange? What can we conclude about what we're trying to do? Well, we
conclude that they regret what they did. Now I don't know how many masters they're on to now, but they bowed and scraped to, some of them got to be guardians, 2 of them, of the people that we talk about.
Yeah.
They got to be high grades, respected. Okay, no, not all of them respected. I apologize for that. They got to be decent grades, and then they ran the south for me, and one of them ran Scotland, or partially Scotland for me when I was in trouble with my wife being in a wheelchair and so on. And do you remember you pushed her around?
Well, yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember when we went in that? Do you remember when we went in that short store to buy the trainers?
Yeah.
And then she stood in the trainers. She stood out of a wheelchair, and I went, "It's a sign!" And you ran out the shop. And then when we put the wheelchair outside, when she went inside, and you sat in it, and the guy threw your money at you.
I don't look that bad.
Anyway, I was hoping they would help me, and obviously I just gave them a lot of power, and unfortunately for me, it's not what you do with people you realize you can't trust. My attitude is you trust people until you can't.
Yeah,
that's always been my way.
Yeah.
So I believe in people, and until suddenly you find out that you can't, and that's a problem that I end up with.
Of all, but
I can sleep at night.
Well, yeah, you can sleep at night because you need to only look at how you ended up. So you come out smelling the roses. As far as
I open that window and all I can see is mountains
and blue skies. What have we got?
Mountains
We've got
and blue skies. Yeah.
I open my window, I see grey skies, concrete, brick.
Well, we're in the city, but you can still see the mountains over the top of the town, and I can walk to a lake which is 85 miles long.
Beautiful.
And 700 feet deep.
Beautiful. But yes, of all, throughout all this shit, you've never, ever, ever lost your passion, your respect, and your love for Lau.
That's
the
right.
Style. And that, has been a constant. And that is why we do this. That is why we do what we do. It's why you do what you do.
Yep.
Because
it's for my own passion. It's not for anyone else.
Absolutely.
We are not representing, when we talk, the any association. We're not representing Lau particularly. We're just protecting it.
Yeah.
We are simply speaking up for it.
But
we've not been given any kind of format to go, you can talk about it. No, this is of our own account, because we believe so many people are talking against it, as you've seen the threads. So many people are coming out with this crap, and yet they sprout crap. They talk about how Lau is not real, and then they go to these masters in the mountains and start to claim that they can kill you with a touch. And and the next thing they're going, "Oh, you shouldn't be talking about us. Shut the up."
There you have it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was the final word from us.
Yeah.
I
apologize to any young listeners.
Oh,
that probably don't use it in front of their parents.
Well,
but otherwise would.
We've had fun, guys. We're on the front line of the disinformation against Lau Gar here, for your viewing pleasure. Thank you for joining us on another, emotional episode of the Kung Fu Podcast. My name's James Still.
And this is me.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that people understand, we are going to be talking about Kung Fu, okay?
Oh, yeah. So what are we going to be talking about in the next thing?
We're talking about those sets that don't exist, those sets that are all made up, those sets that they're a mishmash and they don't relate to each other. We're going to be telling you how they relate to each other and giving you ideas of how to actually learn them. Okay. Because let's face it, let's say it's like Wing Chun. Yeah, well, Wing Chun was a later style. So I don't know how Lau came from Wing Chun. Oh, it must have been our Lau that came from Wing Chun, sorry.
Probably.
Yeah, it must have been our Lau that came from Wing Chun, which is why Lau was that much bigger than Wing Chun at the time when it started. And then suddenly, of course, with Bruce Lee and that, oh yeah, well, Bruce Lee did Wing Chun. So why do you think Wing Chun becomes big? Because Bruce Lee did it. And then when they start arguing, it's like Wing Chun, Ving Sun, Wing Sun, Ving Chun.
It made up lineage, this lineage, that. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Poor buggers.
So let's not talk about lineages anymore. Let's not talk about bullshit masters. Let's just talk about the Kung Fu that we enjoy. Okay.
Science, strategy, and tactics. That's
exactly. That's what we're all about. And that's what we're all about. And I know that these people that we talk about, and they are going to be listening and they are already learning. They're already taking information on board because you see it in their sites. You see it in their little videos. The ABC is a good example.
There you go. Yeah.
They will be learning, but you know what? So will their students. And if their students start to learn, if their students start to watch, they will start to recognize the truth.
They will.
And where the actual style is, not where it's made up.
Yeah.
So do you want to be a big goldfish in a little goldfish bowl, right? Student? Or do you want to learn, real martial arts? So you don't have to keep on opening your mouth like your instructor. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Right, everybody, it's been a pleasure. Take care of yourselves. We'll catch you next time on the Kung Fu Podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You cracked me up. That was funny. Right. Shit.
I kick your little Beijing ass right now, man. I ain't scared of you. I know you know that little tricky shit. Come on.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Kung Fu Podcast. If you like that and you want to find out more about us, you can head over to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or YouTube and find us under SJN Martial Arts. And also guys, this podcast is available on Podbean and iTunes. So until next time, take care of yourselves and we'll see you again on the Kung Fu Podcast.
You're a pushy little bastard, ain't you?
Can you break a log like that?
Don't know. Never been attacked by tree.
Oh god! And then
he's obviously not a fan of traditional martial arts.
You're crossing your arms again, and you're
crap! I'm sorry.
Stop crossing your arms, for goodness.
So sorry. We're talking from our own experience.
Stop!
What?
You're crossing your arms.
Oh,
you're crossing your arms. I can't hear you.
I apologize. Oh, on my thing. Yeah, that's it. I crossed over it. Yeah, that's it.
Don't cover your mic.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. It's really hard to remember. It's down there.
Don't. No.
Okay, take two.
Right. Go on. Do your thing. What are you going to say? The 1970s kung fu clubs in like Harlem in New York with all the guys with the big afros and like that, like going around with the bands on looking like what's his name, Jim bloody.
Everybody was kung fu
fighting. That's it, right. And
I was on the radio once I was on the radio a few times, and we sat there waiting for our time to go on. And I said it's going to be live, and I was with Karen Scott. She said, no, it's not going to be live. It's not going to be live. I said, I think it's going to be live. And I says, I bet you they play Carl Douglas, Kung Fu fighting. And she went, nah. And we heard it, in the studios. Exactly. That's what. And I just looked at her. I just like curled up. Oh God. And then we went on and did interviews and stuff. And she did all the physical stuff, and she was hitting the guy with the earphones.
Yeah.
And he was going, oh. And I says on it, and this is terrible, I know. I says on air, I says, he's a bit of a wuss, isn't he? No, it's not a wuss. And obviously, I'm terrible when I get interviewed. I'm absolutely terrible. I just say what's in my mind.
I think that's your sort of your nervous, expression. You just you end up like projecting yourself and singing Tom Jones or making comments.
Everything is comedy to me. And I guess that's my go-to.
Well, if you don't laugh, you'll cry with some of the stuff we talk about, quite frankly.